Best of r/entitled parents episode 20. So sorry I'm on mobile in advance. So I think you all know who the cast is, so let me get on with the story. I worked at a summer camp and my sister attended as a camper by guess EK's age. On the very first day of camp, Ek declared his love for my sister and he didn't even know her name. I'm pretty sure he had a bad home life and that's what caused his behavior. He always hated doing activities without her and he even tried to kiss her and succeeded, but then it got weird. He literally slapped my sister's butt and then he bit me and other counselors and he even cut me with bloody safety scissors. And his mom/grandma didn't give two craps about what he did. He even jumped in the water at the pool and had to be saved by a freaking lifeguard when he realized that my sister didn't like him. He pursued other girls as well. He was 5. Later on we were at a farmer's market and he was there in a freaking jumpy house and he tracked down my sister and sat on her lap and bit both of us. The dad was an awesome guy though. He told him to knock it off and to stop being a creep, so that was great. TLDR. 5-year-old kid tried to hook up with my sister. Thank you. Next. Should I say was. I got a rabbit a few months ago. Not gonna share info because I don't know who else has my Reddit account. Even if my mom could find it. I'm not allowed to tell anyone because she doesn't want to get in trouble. He's a cute little dude. Very skittish though. I paid for him with my own money I already had and my friend was there when we adopted him. Mom was very nice during the ordeal, even petting him too. We went home. Friend and I brushed him and pet him before going upstairs. Surprise surprise, mom was pissy as all hell the rest of the time my friend was over. I'm used to her insulting my friends when they leave the room, going on full rants when they leave the house. It was a lot worse now. All she talked about was my friend and I manipulating her to get this rabbit and of course the usual. Ugh, how could you be friends with her yelling? She's so fat, too. Had to add that because she's a little on the heavy side herself and is not far at all from friend's loud personality, except friend is never derogatory. So a few weeks in, she noticed how much I was cleaning the rabbit cage and offered to just take that job. Now I clean the hamster who is very low maintenance and she cleans the rabbit, who we have to clean the litter of once or twice a day usually. She did not clean him for weeks and because at this point he was older and had started being mean and spraying, I didn't go near his cage much because he would spray at us. I would like to clarify that I was told not to go near him. I was not neglecting him and was under the impression mom had it completely under control and he was being cleaned still. Turns out she had not cleaned his litter in weeks and was dumping food in from the top bars of his cage. She had also not taken him out to go in the playpen, something I didn't know because I'm not downstairs much and when I am, I'm leaving or coming home. He also seems to be nervous around new people. He poops a lot more and sometimes has diarrhea. I only found out when my friend came over again and mom told her I hadn't been cleaning anything and had gotten so lazy. My friend was extremely concerned for the rabbit and made sure to say so. A kicker? Mom cleaned the cage right then, yelling to us upstairs the entire time about how lazy I was that she had to clean all this shit. I don't know to be honest if my friend believed me about mom wanting to take the cleaning job. I wish that was the end and she cleaned the rabbit again and everything was cool. Nope. His cage stayed clean and he stayed fed for a few weeks because I took back the job. Mom then deep cleaned his cage and attempted to give him to anyone she saw. It got to a point where she would ask around tables at the IHOP we were regulars at and everyone except her was visibly uncomfortable. She asked everyone at my school she could see, not even saying hi, just waving kids over to her soccer mom van, LMAO not even joking, and saying, hey, want a rabbit? My daughter, my full name, is taking horrible care of him. Nobody knew what she was talking about, not many kids at my school know my given name. Yesterday, I went to school and had a great day. Got in the car, mom seemed very happy which was unusual. Hey, fatten a hamster. By the way, I put your rabbit in the garage. He made a mess and I had to put him there. Don't worry, his cage is just on a box and the garage is nice and warm because I put a heater. Okay, fine by me. Stopped for food, ate some damn good ribs. We always stop for dinner on Thursdays and I tell her about art class. Well, we went home. I was in a great mood. Get out of the car in the garage. There's no heater. By the way, makes me go inside. On my way upstairs I catch a glimpse of the front door. Business card from the local animal police department. She starts yelling and getting mad, threatening me because, why do I have that? Did I steal from her purse? She yells for me to go upstairs. She calls the number and is yelling at whoever's on the line. After about 20 minutes I get called downstairs and find out that not only did she try to kill our rabbit, but she lied to the police about it. She tried to throw the rabbit and his entire cage away because he had diarrhea and it smelled bad. She took his cage with him in it just before the garage truck came and put the whole thing in. He has a water bowl and litter box. The litter and water mixed and froze. It's very cold where we live right now. He sat out there for about an hour until the garbage truck came. What mom didn't know was that the garbage man has to look inside the can. He obviously saw the rabbit and called the police. The police came. She wouldn't tell me what they said. She then said I have to help her lie to the police that the rabbit was not ours. Someone must have come and dumped him early in the morning, but because her daughter loved rodents we would keep it. If I didn't support her story, she would be in huge trouble and go to jail. I don't think she would let me get off with no consequences. Honestly, I think that if I tried to tell the truth she would get out of it, maybe say I lied to them to get her in trouble. I'm scared because she's done that before. That's how she got my dad in trouble years ago and my stepbrother expelled. By lying to the police and saying she was right and we were trying to get her in trouble, then give some bullshit about what she did to make us vengeful. She's tried before with me. She managed to get me into a mental hospital in 2016, I believe, by lying that I said I was suicidal and faking texts to my best friend, then saying if I ever said she lied she would send me to residential treatment. I don't know what to do. If you have advice I'd like that. If there's some sort of anonymity I could get if I reported her, maybe give them records that we do own the rabbit. I show my friends and my dad pictures of him a lot. Are there any legal experts here who can help me? I'm a little scared she would try to harm the rabbit again. Actually, since she is back to complaining about him. Please keep in mind that she also thanked me and cried when I didn't react badly because she told me I'm good at keeping calm when she does things like this because it's worse if I give a reaction. She said she would kill herself if I hated her or got mad. She also insists that she is severely depressed already and I could push her over the edge any minute. And I've experienced that too, so I really don't want to say she's faking it. That really hurts to hear if she truly is depressed and I don't want to make it worse. TLDR. Mum tries to kill the pet rabbit, lies to the police using me. I don't want to report her because I could be at risk and she could harm herself. Advice appreciated. I need to do the right thing for once. Edited for formatting. Thank you. Next. I used to frequent Walt Disney World and I am obviously disabled. I use a personal wheelchair and I have a leg brace. I was waiting for the handicap accessible stall in the bathroom, sitting in my wheelchair with nobody else waiting for the stall. I have no problem waiting my turn because I know there's a lot of families that use the large stalls as well. When the stall opened and while I waited the 15 seconds for the little girl and her mother to leave the stall, a woman and her two small kids left their bathroom stall they were in, jumped over my feet and ran into the accessible stall saying we'll just be a minute. I wouldn't have minded, but they weren't waiting for that stall and there were at least 15 open stalls available. The entitled mother just wanted more space, thought it was okay to use the only stall that I can use because she can run into it faster. I could technically use a normal stall but I cannot just abandon my wheelchair in the middle of a busy bathroom, so it makes more sense for me to use the accessible stall that fits my wheelchair. But people see that I can walk 3 or 4 steps and decide I'm faking it or don't really need the accessibility that was literally designed for me. Thank you. Next. Hey. First time posting here, so I hope it's okay. Now this was a few years ago when I was like 10, so I might make some errors, but here goes. Cast EM, EK and ED, entitled Dad. So way back in primary school there was a new kid who moved from Australia. She seemed nice and I had no friends, so I gave it a shot to introduce myself. Right off the bat I knew something was wrong. She just kinda grabbed me and said something like okay we're BFFs now. I didn't really question it cause I wanted a friend. The same day she asked me to come to her house the next week. I agreed. She seemed okay. I did not expect to meet her. Fast forward a few months and I had met her mum and been over to her house a few times. We didn't really do anything apart from play Minecraft with each other. One day after school I was going to hers for a sleepover. It was her birthday. I brought my old busted ass iPad and a charging dock. Normal chargers didn't work. The first thing we did was go to Ec room and I unpacked my stuff. We played games till around 6. This is when I realized her mum was an M and she was an EK. Quickly some background info. I was a fussy eater, and still am, but I would eat things to be polite, just not a lot. I can't exactly remember what we had, but I ate some of it, and she looked me dead in the eye and said, "No, you must eat all of it. I made it for you and EK. It's so rude of you to not finish a plate of dinner." My little 10-year-old brain panicked and said, "Sorry Miss M. I didn't mean to be rude." She slammed her fists on the table and asked me, "What did you buy EK for her birthday?" I was about to tell her it was a Minecraft pencil case when she grabbed my arm and dragged me to EK's room and started looking around. She spotted my iPad charging on the dock and picked it up. "This is rubbish. It's all smashed." I freaked out and ran to her and "No, that's my iPad. If it's not a gift, why is it on a fancy stand?" "Me, because the charger port is a little iffy and the only way it will charge EK. Mummy, I want it. It has Minecraft." I went into my bag and gave Ek her real gift. She looked at me with horror and said to her mum, "EKPENICL case? No, mum, I want the iPad with the fancy speaker." I started to cry as I am not good with people shouting. I asked to call my mum and EP just said, "No, get out of my house, you rude little shit." I grabbed my bags and looked over at EK. She was smirking at me as she held my iPad and tried to turn it on. Hearing the shouting, "ED enters." "ED, what's going on?" "Me, please, I wanna ring my mum." He gave me his phone with my mum's number dialed. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself in. I could hear M saying I was so rude gifting her kid a smashed old iPad. I explained to my mum what happened and she was on her way. I took a chance and ran out of the house. I could hear EK crying about how her birthday was ruined. After waiting in the cold at night, in the middle of nowhere, my mum showed up and drove me home. She was so pissed because M and EK still had my iPad and dock. Luckily it was the weekend and I had a few days to get over it. Apparently Mew mum texted M and demanded EK bring my iPad to school with the dock. Monday comes and goes, no iPad. But I heard a rumor that EK hid the iPad in her bag for after school club. So at break I wanted to see if it was true, and turns out it was. There sat my good ol' iPad and dock. I looked around and grabbed them. I showed my mum and explained what I did. She said I was in the right to steal back what was mine. Turns out they had a history of doing things like this, and a few weeks after they moved to New Zealand, they never made a fuss about how EK's iPad went missing. So I hope you're reading this, Lexi, and I still have that iPad and dock, so who's laughing now, huh? Thank you. Next. My husband is taking a certification exam at work next week and has been studying for weeks. He took today off from work to study and to take a practice test online. Since I was working from home, he decided to use one of the private study rooms at the library to do the test part so he wouldn't be disturbed. The rooms are first come, first serve. You can't reserve them. You're not supposed to disturb people in those rooms, even if there are empty seats at the table. The actual test has a time limit of 4 hours and the practice test he was taking has the same time limit. He was about an hour in when he heard a loud tap on the glass. He looked up to see a lady with 3 kids in tow. She opened the door and said, "This is the room my kids used to study. You'll need to move." He obviously refused, which apparently didn't matter to her. She told the kids to go in the room anyway. The next thing he knew, the kids were spreading their things out on the table and were being just disruptive in general. My husband told her they needed to leave, that he was in the middle of studying for an important exam. She just smirked and said, "Go tell a librarian then." Except my husband isn't stupid. He knew if he left the room, he'd have to take his laptop and everything else with him. Then he'd lose the room. So he called the library on his cell and asked to speak to a librarian. He quickly explained the situation and within a couple of minutes, there was someone there to deal with it. That entitled idiot had the nerve to argue that she and her kids were there first. Except the librarian knew that wasn't true. They do checks where they walk past the study rooms. She saw my husband in that room on the last check she made. Then the lady had the nerve to stand in the room and argue that her kids always use that room because it's big enough for all of them. That my husband should have to move to a single desk in the main part of the library because it's just him. Those desks aren't private, nor are they quiet. He'd have been dealing with noises and distractions. That's why he was in the study room in the first place. The librarian wasn't having it. She said, if you're going to continue to impinge on this gentleman's time, I'm going to ask you to leave the library. I can't have you disrupting the other patrons. Then the entitled mom tried to stare the librarian down. Like if she just stood there, the librarian would change her mind. In the end, she was told they'd be calling the police if she didn't pack up her kids and leave. For my husband, the worst part though was when they all finally left. One of the kids, maybe 9 or 10 years old, turned to the librarian and called her a bitch. The mom just laughed. Can you imagine being such a garbage dump of a human being that you teach your children it's okay to call a librarian a bitch when you don't get your own way? She's passing on that entitlement like a pro. He never did finish the practice test today. By the time the whole ordeal was over, he hadn't answered a question in 20 minutes, so the website timed out. I ended up meeting him there and we went to early happy hour instead. He'll try a game tomorrow but he'll do it from home. The only entitled creatures at our house are our dogs. TL. Doctor, entitled lady tries to kick my husband out of his study room at the library. Gets kicked out of the library instead. Thank you. Next. You guys thought that when the EM got kicked out after she tried to take my bowling ball, that it would be the end? Wrong. For those who haven't read the original story, read it by clicking here. Thank you. Next. A few years ago I worked as a branch manager at a mid-size regional retail bank. It was a small branch, so it was just me, a personal banker slash asset manager, and 2 tellers. We had a college pretty close. It wasn't a D1 school or anything, but they had a football team, D3, which was popular locally and competitive in their division. It was big enough that every year we opened some new accounts for incoming students. One day entitled Mom EM, proud entitled Dad Ped, and their new arrival freshman son FS, doesn't really speak, walk into the branch and directly into my office. My branch probably looked like the headquarters of the bank, but it was just a regular bank in a big old school bank building that was rented. I stood up and greeted them. When I did, I looked into the lobby to see if it was suddenly super busy, and I didn't notice. The lobby was empty. They blew straight past the tellers and banker, whose office is customer facing and inviting, straight to mine. I met eyes with the head teller and she just shrugged. She later told me that everyone tried to greet them but they weren't having it. We need to open a new account for our son. Me great, our personal banker opens all of our new accounts and will help you set up everything you need while FS is here. 3 hours from them at school. Let me introduce you. I always let her open new accounts so she could make her bonus. They ignore me and take a seat. Head FS is here to play football. Insert 10 minutes of talk about football and his role as the new freshman kicker at D3U. I politely engaged in the conversation. You're the branch manager, we'd prefer that you open the accounts. Me sure, no problem. They seem to be a nice family but definitely helicopter parents and a little entitled but not story worthy. We talked a little football, good places to eat, and some general info about the area. I go over a checking account with the kid and there isn't much to it. A simple student checking account with a debit card and online banking access. Things turn. He will need a debit card right away. He has $700 cash to start the account. We don't want him walking around with that money. Can we get one today? Me, I'm sorry but we don't print new cards at the branch, but we do have a few expedited delivery options that can help. But he needs a card now. We are also in a hurry. There are a lot of new student things we need to attend today. Maybe Ped should stop talking about football if you have somewhere to be. Me, the fastest way I can get a card here is to have it expedited to the branch in 2 days. There is a fee of $25 but I'll waive it. I can also have the card delivered to our branch closest to campus so FS can walk over and grab it. 5 minutes walk. We can deposit most of his money into the account now and he can keep some cash on him for incidental expenses until the card arrives. He can activate the card at the branch ATM. It's super easy. I felt like this was pretty above and beyond the Call of Duty to offer a good solution. Pet, he's here to play football, he can't be worrying about this. The entire time I'm of course wondering why they didn't set the account up at their home branch so he could have his debit card when he arrived. However, even with their massive failure in planning, I feel like I deliver the best possible customer service. They get visibly upset. The dad starts to get heated, mumbling under his breath that my bank sucks. I need a card here first thing tomorrow. I keep my composure. I reiterate as nicely as I can that isn't possible. Ped, there has to be a way. I had a bank do it before. He practically has a vein popping on his forehead. I wanted to say, dude, I don't know where the fuck the bank even makes this shit. I can't drive to the debit card plant and pick one up, and I'm not a genie. It's going to be 2 days, but I gave the standard canned response when someone is asking for the impossible. I wanted them TF out of my branch at this point. I offered to go meet their fucking kid at a time of their choosing with his debit card. I actually meet him with the card at an ATM by his dorm where I show him how to activate it and use it. Nice kid. I hear from his mom at least 3 more times asking questions about the account, and because she fucked up the simple task of setting up online banking, she emails me about it several times as well. I had more contact helping her with this account than any other student account in history. She gets a survey online at random. Surveys were important to me. Anything less than 5/5 might as well be a 0 in the eyes of many at the bank whose only job was looking at surveys. Part of my bonus was tied to the score, and at a perfect 5-0 I led the region. 1/5 a fucking 1. And a lengthy complaint about debit cards, online banking, and the branch managers and willingness to help. It killed my perfect average with surveys which no one else had out of 15 branches for the quarter, and I had to write a fucking action plan about it because if you got a 1 it was discussed with some lame coach type person. I know there wasn't much payoff to this story, but that one still bothers me. She just had to deal with the manager,